Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. I hope you're having a good day. I hope your 2025 has been good. My next guest and I were just chatting about how, time flies. And you just kind of got to roll with things. I forgot my mouse today. I'm rolling with it today. I hate not having a mouse. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Apple MacBook situation, but I'll just make do today. It just makes it a little more interesting. Without further ado, my guest. I really enjoyed our last conversation, Jan. Dr. Jan Jaffer, the Chief Visionary Officer. I love the title. How are you doing, my friend?
Really good, Mark. How you been?
We were just chatting about it, like, man, oh man, time is flying. We're racing through 2025 already. We were talking about just how do you what's your philosophy in making sure that you're ticking off all the boxes? Especially with you, you're off to Guatemala. You're teaching all over internationally. How do you hold on for dear life, Jen? And where your family had everything. How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? There's so much going on right now, and 2024. I mean, I'm not sure where it went. We're already a month into 2025. Things are busy, but things are
Yeah.
exciting, right? I mean, we get some great opportunities, and I think that's where the motivation comes from. I have this thing that we talk about. Everybody wants to be in balance, and I say, you know what? It's actually an intentional imbalance. We're never going to be in balance. If I was in balance, I'd be working out 5 times a week, and I'd be drinking eight glasses of water, and I drink more and I eat more salad than I do anything else, right? But that's not possible all the time, right? And so
Yeah.
I think, one of the things that I've taken is that as long as we plan our lives, intentional imbalance is okay. There's going to be times in your life where kids are going to take over, and that's okay. And there's times where you're single, where you can work out and you can hit up the gym, or you can go to the bar, and that's okay. And we're never going to be that perfect person, because you listen to all these people and you're like, this is how you should live life, and this is what you should do. And you're like, yeah, but I got 2 kids, and we're off to doing this. And so, live in a life where you try to control at least the elements around you, and
Yeah.
don't let life control you. So and it's hard. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
there's so much going on that sometimes you're just like, say yes. And it's something that I'm managing. I don't know that I'm managing well, but because I think I say yes a little too often. I keep putting stuff in my wife's schedule about how I'm going to be leaving again, and she's like, "Wow, there's a lot of leaving."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
started counting. I think I've got 7 lectures between now and the end of May
Oh,
where I will
wow.
be out of town. I mean, the closest one's Banff, and the furthest one's Chicago, and so that's a lot. So it's like, how do you manage the family? But I try to take them with me, and hey, I'm excited. I mean, there's lots of good stuff happening, and I think we're really fortunate to be in dentistry doing what we do.
Let's jump into that. Your family, how important is your dad hat? You're always posting great pictures of you're with your kids and stuff. How much energy does that give you, as being a dad? It's the coolest job of them all, isn't it?
Well, it is. It is the coolest job, right? I got a 4.5, 6.5 year old. We're having fun, right? And we're we're doing a lot of stuff. We just got back from Mexico for a week, which was really interesting though, because we take our whole staff. Well, not whole staff. Anybody that's been a year long and want to come to Mexico with us, they go. And so we had a group of 80 down in Mexico for a week, and got to spend some quality time with the team and my kids. And I think that's the balance that sometimes I've had to live, is that my kids are going to be a part of some of the cool stuff that I get to do. So when I travel to these lectures, I try to every second trip make it a family trip. And sometimes that means that you're actually spending more lecturing than you're actually making on the lectures, but that's okay, because there's an
Yeah.
experience around it with the kids. And so, yeah, I mean, I love I got 2 little boys, and it's fun. It's so much fun, right? And enjoying it every day.
We talk about balance, and I'm jumping back to, like I said, that I read something the other day where, if you're pushing forward in life, you're going after your purpose and your passion. There's some pain there. There is some challenges. There's some trials that you must go through to get there. I like how you put you phrased the balance. It's sort of like, it's sort of in your back of your mind. But I think it's the best to be resourceful, right? Like, and creative with, like you're fortunate to be able to take your kids along on these things. It's, sometimes you can, nail two birds with one stone, right?
Yeah, you make it a trip, right?
Yeah.
And that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? Family is ultimately, it's so important, and trying to figure out how to manage, that piece into what life gives you, and doing the best that you can, right? I mean, I think everybody's doing the best that they can. It's, just trying to make sure you're controlling your time, and so trips are a little, quicker now, where it's like, hey, you might spend the extra night because you're in LA, and be like, hey, it'd be fun to meet up with some people. Maybe you come home the night earlier, so you get a little more time with the boys. But that's just, I think it's part of the where you are in life, really, ultimately.
Yeah. You're a guy too. You have so much outwards energy. Like you're giving everybody so much. And you just like you're lecturing. You're on the stage and you're just giving. Being a dad aside, what do you do for just Jan? Like what do you like to exercise? Do you like to read a book? Like what's your jam? What do you like?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. I wish I exercised a little bit more. I mean, I to be honest, fallen a little off that bandwagon, but that's part of it. Um, gotten back into some podcasts, really enjoying listening, ended up getting a new car. And so now it's got Android Auto. And so all of a sudden, all these like fancy things that I never used to be able to do is just so easy. You hit a button and you can listen to podcasts. And I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. And so I always go back
Yeah.
to, my why. So motivating people to live well and give back, right?
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. And so how do I live that out? How do I get people to live healthier lives, have healthier offices, have healthier, communities around them? And then how do we, continue to be socially responsible? And I think you have to, you can talk about it a lot, but people see what you're doing ultimately, right? They follow you as a person, and you have to live it on a daily basis. And so trying to make sure that we're creating healthier environments. I think that's one of my biggest focuses right now is, how do you create healthier environments with the people around you? And then how do you get them to be grateful for what they have? Because you won't be able to help others unless you've got an element of gratitude. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like three pieces to it, right? It's the health, it's the gratitude, and it's the social responsibility. And it's interesting because who doesn't want to be healthier? Like all of
Yeah.
us want to be healthier, right? Who doesn't want to live a better life and have less stress and have more, but what they've been showing with a lot of the stuff is that us in and of ourselves are really not able to do it unless you're one of these ultra motivated,
Yeah.
ultra, like it's hard to do some of that.
Yeah.
And so how do you create that environment?
Yeah, you got to, it's all about, and my first show of the year was with Matt, and we went over some of these things, and really it's, a combination of good habits. It's setting systems up in place so that, you have these fail safes, but, a lot lies on the setting the alarm clock and just fighting through the urge to to stay in bed, really, at the end of the day, right? Not everybody has that, not everybody has that element inside. So, your title is a chief visionary officer. Like, what does that mean to you? Because you can't be everywhere all at the same time. So, a lot of the system that you've set up is dependent on other folks and other team members running that. In your opinion, what's the definition of a good leader? What qualities
me,
do you see?
well, I mean, the definition of a good leader is to create other leaders, right? Ultimately, you being able to manage all of this, and we've grown, obviously up to 17 offices, 240 odd people in the organization. It's really hard to do it yourself. And so you have to create other leaders. You have to trust other people to do the right thing. And so it's finding the right people and then trusting them to do the right thing, which I believe people are inherently wanting to do the right thing and inherently good. So how do you create some systems, create some boundaries, and then allow them to do it? Our offices are set up with partners at every office. So all 17 offices have a partner. That's somebody that owns, generally between 25 and 50% of the clinic. And then a team lead. And we don't call them office managers because we believe they're leaders, right? They're the team lead. You just said, how do you create the system? We create other leaders. And we have zero middle management in our entire organization, which is actually quite interesting because most people, as they get larger, they create managers and they create that system. I
Right.
have a team. There's 5 people with me that we have kind of the management team, and really we're doing the back end stuff, paying some of the bills, managing the websites, doing that stuff. But we want to empower our team leads at the office to be doing that, and our partners at the office to be, doing their best job running these clinics. So finding good people.
I don't want to knock I don't want to knock anybody. This isn't like anybody's fault, but that like the middle management thing, I think, it's not their fault. I think it's kind of like just subject to the variables in place. I think some of the magic gets lost in that, and that sort of that hierarchy middle part where, it's maybe about the decisions that are made. I don't know. I see middle management, and this is, my experience is it's more of an insulator for the total company machine, and it takes some of the heart out of it. Maybe that's just my opinion, my assessment. But
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, one of the things that makes us, I think, as an organization different is we keep metrics out of the office. And I think we
yeah,
chatted a little bit about this
we
last time,
did.
but there's
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
real metrics at the office level. And so the problem was when we added middle management into the system, and we tried it. I mean, we're not brilliant in thinking that we just know everything. So you got to try things and keep what works and moves what doesn't. When we put some level of middle management in, what we found is that we had to give them some level to show that they were successful, right? So what is their job? How are they going to be successful at their job? And so then we started almost creating some level of metrics around middle management. Well, then they were going to the offices and saying, well, here's what needs to be done so that we get this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, that's
Yeah.
exactly against what our culture dictates, because we've grown a culture of, there's no targets for hygienists at the office. There's no targets for dentists. There's no targets for production. There's no targets at all at an office level. We're focused on overall team health and overall patient health, and it's helped us be more successful because the focus is in the right spot. I know this doesn't work for everybody, and I know that you can't have 200 clinics necessarily and just hope that that's going to be the case. We're
Hmm.
quite hands-on with the environment that we work in. But it's interesting, right? I mean, the lecture I'm giving next week in Orange County is why bonuses are detrimental to organizations and what you can do instead.
Right.
And it's an interesting piece, right? Because a lot of people are, how do you motivate? What's the point? Why are we using bonuses? What are we trying to get out of it? And
Right.
then understanding the underlying what we're trying to achieve, and then figuring out how we can do it better.
Jan, this is what I've thought about this a lot. Like, I've spoken to tons of people, and in my opinion, I think it's all about the patient and it's all about the community. I agree so much with that. Like, I think if you incentivized on production, we're looking at turning, like, we're not looking at getting people out of the chair. I think, even when we see long-term patients, for example, in growing healthy clinics, I think if you spend that extra 15 minutes to get to know that patient, you're looking at all sorts of great things like referrals and, them being able to talk to their hygienist, their CDA, the dentist, and really being able to, hey, I've got all these other things going on. Like, I think there's just better care when you remove that. So I remember, like, our last conversation, like, we talked about this, and it just makes so much sense. And I think, it's more about doing the right things in a medical setting. And the incentive should be, taking care of people. And then at the end of the day, those folks are coming back. They're referring friends and family. Like,
Well, what
that's
does success look like, right? And that's kind of what you have to figure out for you yourself and your audience and the dentists around. For us, having a patient in the office for 10 years is success. Not that
Yeah.
they spent $10,000 in 10 years, that they stayed with us and they got their cleanings done for 10 years. That ultimately is success for us as an organization. So when you take it as, wait, I want this patient to be here for the next 10 years, what would you do in that situation versus I want this patient to spend $10,000? I don't think any dentist does that. So I'm not, there's just, it's the production versus the longevity. Because what we know is success over time is really important. One of the biggest things that people sometimes ask me is like, well, what's your production? What's your new patient flow?
Hmm.
And I turn around and I say, well, what's your retention rate of patients? And they're like,
Yes.
what are you talking about? And they're like, I'm like, well, if you get 40 patients and you lose 50, we've got a problem. If you
Right.
get 30 patients and you lose 10, like you're actually in a much better position. So we're also always chasing the how do we get more new patients through the door, not realizing that if we just kept the patients we had, ultimately we could be so much more successful, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build up, our hygiene, trying to build
Mhm.
up our, you know, just people coming back, our recall systems, because ultimately that makes a huge difference to the bottom line of a dental office. Like hygiene is a really big engine for us in terms of how it grows. And then the dentists get busy, because if we have patients that come back all the time,
Yeah.
there's going to be work that needs to be done. I mean, that's just a natural thing. We're not good at eating. We're not good at taking care of ourselves. And so sugar is a big part of our diet. And ultimately, patients need work done. But flipping what success looks like ultimately is something that's big for us.
Yeah, we I mean, back to the first part of our conversation, right? Like this meat suit doesn't last forever. So like these, on a long scale, this work is going to happen. I think it's and with all the conversations that I've had about there, and everybody that I see has a successful practice, and not only that, they're happier doing what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Like that too. There's that aspect too. If you're you're just seeing dollar signs, I think that's where people are burning out too. I think if that's your focus, like if you're looking at that face coming through the door and you want to give your focus is giving them the absolute best experience, the best care. To me, I think that's like it's a kind of like an evil thing that's been programmed into all of us. Is like we tend to like try and see this sort of like the dollar signs and everything, and
Well, it's how we measure success, right?
yeah,
People measure success on, like, when you talk to people, what's the first question they ask me? Well, how many clinics do you have?
yeah,
But I mean, what does it matter? I mean, if I tell you I have 2 or I have 22, what does it matter? Unless you're saying, well, if you're successful on more, you have better systems, maybe you can teach me something. Sure.
yeah,
But after you have 5 or 10 or 15, what does it matter? Right? I
yeah.
mean, is that really success? I mean, when you look at it, it's funny because people never ask, well, what's your top line or bottom line production, or net? Because I could have 15 clinics doing $15 million or 10 clinics doing $20 million. What's better? But
Hmm.
people, again, it's asking the wrong question. And again, we're getting into metrics there, but
Yeah,
it's what is successful? What does success look like for you and individually? And it's going to be different for different people. But when we put a dollar sign in front of it, then we start chasing, and then that gets tiring. It's
yeah,
not easy to just
yeah,
continue to chase that. That's the burnout, like you're talking about.
yeah.
That's where when we start pushing people past the ability of, why'd you get into dentistry? Why'd your assistant get into dentistry? Why'd your hygienist get into dentistry? They want to help people. They want to have good conversations, and they like people. Generally, if you're in dentistry, you like people because you want to be in front of them and you want to
You
connect
hope
with
so.
them.
Yeah,
So yeah, right. So
yeah,
let's give people the opportunity to do
yeah.
stuff like that.
And we're not here forever. I think there's something to be said about what legacy you're leaving, right? Like, to me, it's all about, yeah, it's like a selfish thing. Do I have a nice car? All this stuff, or is it, what impact did you have on your time? And
Right.
what
And did you get
impact
home?
did you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
that's the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I just think if you're doing the right things, you're going to benefit. It's the byproduct of doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, it's like, what are people going to remember you for at the end of the day? And
And do the right thing, and then it'll turn into like, and that's, I completely believe that, and so I like your thought around that. Is that if you do the right thing, again, the success comes, right? I mean, yeah, we want the nice cars, we want the nice house, we want to go on nice trips. I
yeah,
mean, that's just a natural piece. But
yeah,
when you do the right thing, those things become easier, right?
yeah,
They do. They become easier, and then all of a sudden you can have more fun doing it. So
yeah, yeah, and just like have that sort of underlying joy that you're I don't know, like, are we feeling guilty too, like, if we're taking too much as well, and not, if you're in a position to be able to give back. I think is it our duty, right? And I know that's
yeah,
it's a
I do believe
major
it.
it's a
Yeah,
major piece to the puzzle. Let's
yeah.
dive into that. So what's the trip to Guatemala?
Yeah,
What's
so
what's it all about?
getting excited. We're off to Guatemala February 13th, I believe, and we're going to be down there for about 10 days. We're working with, in this case, an organization called Dentistry for All. You can look that up. I mean, one of the other organizations that I've spent some time working with is Kindness in Action. Those are the two that I know best. Great organizations allowing us to go down and do some amazing work and help some people that are down there. And hey, I mean, I pretend like we're saints and we're going down there and we're doing all this good work. This is good for us, right? Ultimately, going down, getting a bit of a reset, getting away from maybe the hustle and bustle and all the craziness that we have around us, and going and doing that dentistry that you want to do, where you pick the treatment plan and then the patient just says yes because there's no finances associated with it. So, 3 fillings and an extraction and a root canal, and we do all that. We do the cleanings. Like, it's a nice place to be. You're helping others. You're working with your team. I mean, there's going to be 25 of us. Half of that team is from TREC, and half of that team is just from Canada and the U.S. There's people from around the world that join us on these trips. Um, it's just fun, and we get to do some great work, and we get to help some people. And I always look at it as like, well, who are you helping when you go down there, right? And I think that there's kind of four aspects of giving back, and one is you're helping the person. I mean, that's the obvious. Person that's got a toothache, you're helping them, but you're helping their family, right? Because if it's the father or the mother, they need to go back home, cook, work. You're helping them, and then you're helping yourself, right? Like, I mean, you go down there, you feel really good about giving back. It's one of those pieces that I think is really cool. Is like when you help somebody, you feel good about it. And then the last aspect of it is, you're making other people around you feel good, right? When we go down and we get to have these conversations and we get to tell people about what we do, people feel good that you're doing it. And so I implore people to not be quiet about the work that they're doing. Tell people about it, motivate other people to do it, and not brag, not like, hey, I'm better than you. I can take 10 days off and go to Guatemala. No, no, no. But how do you look at the cool stuff that we're doing, and how can you help me get to that? Because I mean, if you're a dentist, hey, come on a trip. But if you're not a dentist, maybe you can support me on the next trip. Maybe you can pay for one of a staff member to go down to do stuff like that. Like, how can you get involved? And people don't know what you're doing unless you're, it's the there's not very many good things about social media, I believe, but this is one of them, where you
Yeah,
can get out there and you can talk about things that you're doing and you can help others. And so, really looking forward to it. Social responsibility, again, is a big part of our organization. We just had our retreat where we get all 250 people together, and we built some toys for the Ronald McDonald Children's Hospital house, the foundation, Ronald McDonald Foundation, that it's attached to the Alberta Children's Hospital. And this is where we get the whole staff involved, right? Every single person got to build something. And to me, again, talking to dentists, getting it out there, like, figure out a way to get your team involved in helping,
yeah,
because we all want to do it, right? And it was interesting you saying, hey, you know what, that 5 o'clock alarm or 6 o'clock alarm, like, we got to get out of bed, we got to do it. Here's the thing that they're actually showing, and this is the benefit, sad part about it, is that motivation in and of yourself will not be able to last. So
yeah,
the only way that you can actually do something is if your culture or your work, or it's actually mandated. And this is the sad part about, as I'm researching and spending more time on this, that we can only stay motivated for so long.
yeah,
Communities can only stay motivated for so long. Cities can only stay motivated for so long. And so unless you have something that you actually do, it's hard. Like, And that's almost mandated. And I know this sounds a little crazy. It's like, well, we're going to mandate health in our organization. You kind of have to sometimes. Like we
Yeah.
had a program that we did a few years ago where, I was, working out more, eating healthier, and I said, you know what, sugar we know is the worst thing that we can put in our body.
Yeah.
So we created a system inside our offices that you can't bring sugar into the office. Period. You can eat it yourself because I can't stop you, but you can't bring sugar for anybody else. And our staff all did that. And it was like, hey, this is kind of cool. We can get around this, right? And then we fell off. We did it for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then we fell off that bandwagon. And what happened, right? Now it's somebody's birthday and there's cupcakes, and then it's the
Yeah.
next person, and it's, hey, it's just Friday, and somebody goes and buys donuts for the office. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just a nice thing to do, but we're not helping ourselves, right? Glucose spikes, hard to work. We're actually hurting the system that we're trying to make healthier, which is our team, by doing things like that. And we
Yeah.
don't look at it. So what do we need to do as practice owners? What do we need to do as leaders in organizations, leaders in communities? You look at like Singapore, they tax sugar, and then they take that money and they use it to decrease the price of good food, like healthy food,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, that's pretty cool. But if the government doesn't do that, then McDonald's is going to be cheaper, or that chocolate bar or chips is going to be cheaper than the apple. Which you see, I mean, hey, you've gone to the grocery store recently, like fresh fruit and vegetables, like that's expensive.
Yeah.
Good quality meat,
Yeah.
that's expensive, whether you believe in eating meat or not. But good quality proteins, let's just say, and it's hard. So how do we you know motivate people to be like, hey, you should work out 3 times a week, you should drink 8 glasses of water? How do we actually almost create a system that they have to? And I'm not
Yeah.
a big fan of Big Brother and the rest, but you know what? Over a long period of time, for society to change, we need some strong leadership across in our organizations, in our bodies, like within the BC Dental Association, Alberta Dental Association, and then within our governments too. To be completely honest, we need strong leadership, and that's I mean, a whole nother ball of wax that we could get into. But
That's the next episode, Jan.
yeah,
Yeah.
just try to figure out how to create strong organizations. Because here's the other thing: what's the biggest challenge that dentists tell you they have right now?
It's staff. It's been staff for the longest time.
Right. Okay. So do you know now what they say the number one reason that staff stay?
It's probably I like due to leadership and the environment and the practice. Like
Okay. So that's
that's
now
how they
fallen to number.
value where they're valuing where they are.
Yeah. So the stats, and again, these are not perfect stats. Like, don't get me wrong, but that's now kind of fallen to number two.
Oh,
Number
okay.
one has actually changed. And number one is having a best friend at the office.
Oh,
So connection has taken over how you're treated. How you're treated is still super important, and pay always falls around 3 or 4. So pay, people are
hmm.
like, oh, we got to pay people better. It is. It's super important. It's in the top 5. It's not 1 or 2 or 3 generally. So when I tell you that having a friend in the office ultimately, because here's the thing, if you want to leave that office, now it feels like a divorce, right? Like leaving a
Yes.
significant other is
Yeah.
really tough to do. So what are we doing to build connection within our offices, right? We start the day and boom, there's patients in the chair, lunch, 20 minutes, half an hour, we're eating while we're moving, and then we finish the day and then we go home.
Yeah.
What happened to just sitting down and having lunch as a team? I
Yeah.
mean, how many offices just stop and almost lock the doors up front and then have lunch as a team? I mean, we don't do that on a daily basis. But hold on, if you want your team to stay and if you want things to work over the long period of time, you got to build connection.
Yeah.
Connection is now shown to be the biggest benefit for decreasing depression, decreasing anxiety. You need to connect with people. So
Hmm.
what can we do we can create a great environment. We can have, a dentist that cares about their people and create stuff. But if you don't have a friend on the team, you're going to leave.
And creating those enriching experiences that the team does together. I think, you think about where you gain a bond. It's usually doing something like a trip. Like that will solidify a friendship, like experiences. So you guys are
And
obviously, that's a huge part of what your
and it makes a
mission
big
is. Yeah.
difference. But not everybody goes, right? Like, so we
Yep.
have 240 people in the organization, 60 come to Mexico. 15, 10, 12, go to Guatemala, there's still another, 160 people that didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so we got to make it simpler, right?
Yeah.
We just got to make it simpler. Like once a month having lunch with your team,
Hmm.
once a month having dinner with your team.
Sure.
Those little things make a massive difference, right? Slowing down, creating those connections, putting the phones away when we have lunch in the lunchroom. And
Yes.
again, not every day. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that every day, right? But like, hey, can we plan one lunch a week or one lunch a month? I mean, let's just start there. Forget one lunch a week. One lunch a month where the office buys lunch, we all sit in a room together, we put our phones away, and we just find out what's going on in each other's lives, right?
Yeah.
It,
You encourage the dialogue.
it
Yeah.
doesn't sound that hard, and
Yeah.
yet nobody does it.
It sounds lovely, actually. It's such a human thing to have that. Like it's, I think if you like you nailed it. Like all the stats based on like if you're lacking human connection, there's all these things that kind of stem, all these negative things that stem out of that. Okay, so here I'm gonna like throw a little bit of a curveball at you. You have that, and like it happens. You have that one team member that creates sort of a muck. What do you do in that situation?
I mean, we say train them in or train them out, right?
Yeah.
Like, so here's the thing, right? Not everybody's going to fit in the culture that you create. I get to meet all of our new employees. So once a quarter, we have a new team orientation. And what we do in that is I spend about 4 hours with every new hire, but in a group. So every quarter. So, there could be 5 people, there could be 10 people in that quarter that we've kind of brought on. And I tell them, look, we've got a system that's kind of working here and it's working pretty well. So you have the ability to make it slightly better or screw it up, right? It's not going to make it infinitely better because we feel like things are actually going in the right direction. But you can easily, one person can screw up an entire system, right? I mean, you can have
Yeah.
a bad apple in an office. And so I said, I hope that you fit in because if you don't, we're not going to want you to be here to screw up what we've already created.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you can't do the job. It just means in the culture that we've created, you don't fit. There's some people where, you put them in these environments of where, hey, we do stuff together and we volunteer and we go on trips. And they're like, that's not what I want. Like, I'm not that type of person. Okay, that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It just means figure out where you fit. Find that organization that you fit in.
Yeah.
But yes, the challenge is, can you afford to fire somebody because you can't replace them, right? I mean,
Right.
that's ultimately the environment that we're in. And I believe, again, that people are good and people want to fit in and people want to be part of an organization and they want to be. So, when you find that, let's just say bad apple in the, have you sit down and had the conversation? Have you sat down and gone for lunch with that person to just figure out what's going on? What's causing that? Because ultimately there's probably something underlying that we're
Hmm.
not seeing as to why this is happening. And it's not always going to work. But that slow down to speed up, right? We're so busy and we're in North America. There's no time to slow down. We just run the rat race, right? We go to work, we
Yes.
come home, we take our kids to tennis and then swimming and then piano. And then it's like bedtime. And then you just wake up the next morning and you do it again.
And
And
then
then you
it's
get to the
Saturday.
weekend
Yeah.
and then there's like dance classes and skiing and
Yeah. Yeah.
snowboarding and all these things.
Yeah.
And then you just do it again. And
Yeah.
it's like, wait a second, like, where are we slowing down?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, hey, we do it too, right? So it's trying to figure out how to spend quality time with people. And
Hmm.
this is one of my problems. My phone is with me all the time because that's how I can connect with our offices, but still trying to be mindful to put it down. And it's a challenge for me. I mean, none of us, I'm not perfect. It's a challenge for me is to like just disconnect. Right?
Well, I think a lot of our day to day really depends on us being on it, and being connected with sort of a larger reach, right? It's kind of like that, slippery slope where, you're on it and then you tend to dive into seeing what's going on with social media. Like,
Yeah.
it's non-productive time, right? But
Totally.
I think it gives the brain a little bit. It's a drug. It's totally a drug. It gives the brain a little bit of dopamine, and
Yeah.
away you go, right? It's that. I think that's where we're managing it. Back to the individuals in your network. How do you there's obviously a part of folks, and it's probably on the list too of why people might want to leave, is their own personal growth and development. What systems do you have in place to ensure that folks are, becoming the individuals that they want to become within the organization?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in dentistry is that
Yeah.
once you're an assistant, like where do you go, right? Like, I mean, you become a better assistant and an assistant for a longer period of time, but you can't really become the owner of the practice because you don't have a skill set. You have to go back to school. And then you're the hygienist. And where do you go from there? I mean, you can't become the dentist unless you go back to school. And not that you want to. I'm just saying it's a massive challenge in dentistry. And we haven't cracked that code, to be completely honest. I mean, we do spend a lot of time on continuing education, and our focus is making better people. Honestly, like we just had our big retreat, and we didn't talk about dentistry. We talked about, how to make yourself better and how to help with stress and how to cope with different things. We brought a great speaker in, Dr. Robin from Toronto, actually, and she's not a doctor in the true sense of like a medical doctor, but has a PhD and has figured out how to like help people be more resilient and those pieces. And so when we're trying to make people better, that's the part that we're focusing on. I mean, hey, do you want to go back to school? Let's do it. Can we help you get better CE and training and do better things? Absolutely. But it's a challenge in dentistry, right? Because what happens to the assistant that's been with you for 10, 15, 20 years? Right? I mean, they're now the lead assistant at the office. They're doing the ordering. They're doing the.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of. It's something that I think as an industry it'd be great to figure out how to do that better. But we're in medical, and so you have to have a degree of some sort to keep moving into a different position, and it's not easy. It's not the person that because I know the one of the CEOs that used to work at Earl's, and literally from like dishwashing to cooking to
Mhm.
running the entire organization. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do that in dentistry, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit more of a challenge.
Are some of the folks key leaders, like a team of hygienists that would speak to the group? Is that a thing? Like, do you have
But yeah, that's what we're
different
working on.
segments of the group that would go and offshoot, and there's a hygiene retreat or something like that?
So those are things that we're absolutely working on right now, is creating these kind of leaders inside each group that can go to different offices that can help. And what we found is we created one in the hygiene department, and she's been fantastic. And now we're noticing it's like, well, she's going to different clinics, on certain Fridays, but now she's booked for the next 6 months. And we're like, well, we need more. And so now it's starting to look back in the organization and it's like, hey, who else wants to be, a leader for training, a leader for making sure, again, our patients are getting that best treatment, because there's a skill set with hand skills, there's a skill set with talking, there's a skill set with, just understanding software and systems and, AI, which we've added to all of our offices now. And so,
Yeah.
just trying to train people. So that's what we haven't figured that out. We've got our hygiene trainer now, but we're trying to beef that up. And I'm actually working with an assistant, just starting this month to create an assistant trainer and an admin trainer. And you think we would have had all those pieces, and I think we've just done well because we've got good people in the organization that can be a part of it and help. But formalizing that process of training and formalizing that process of creating best practices and making sure that they're being followed. Because here's what we believe: if you have a good system and it works, it's actually less stressful once you put that into place. The process of putting it into place can increase stress because we're trying to, hey, that's not how I used to do it. Okay, but if you do it this way, it's going to make it easier later, right? It's like getting to the gym. It's hard at the beginning, but once
Yeah.
you're doing it, it becomes easier. And so that change can be, the part that's stressful, let's just say.
Yeah.
But that consistency over time helps.
Okay, so in developing the system, what's the how do you go about doing that? Is there a team that sits down once a month that takes a look at how things are working? Is there communication with the different groups in the team to give suggestions, and then these pieces are added on? How does the system evolve? Because
Yeah, so
nothing
not
is
terribly formalized
yeah,
at
yeah.
this point. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we look at offices that are doing well, and so we try to learn from best practices from the offices that are doing better at it. So we have one of my partners, Dr. Reddy. She's created a great hygiene. We have a perio protocol. Everybody's seen that. All the hygienists have to watch that. We've created videos, but the implementation of that protocol, like, her office is doing really well on perio and hygiene and rebooking and people coming back. So we're saying, hey, what are you doing? And then how do we create that? So she's helped us build that system. And now we're looking at, another one of our offices that, again, just efficiency with assistants. Okay, let's take that person. Let's work with a couple people. We get the opinions of, some of our doctors and our senior partners, and we do put that together. But again, not as formalized as maybe we should be or could be. It's a process, right? I mean, everything's a process, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. And we're learning from the hygiene one, to be completely honest, because now that we've got one that's starting to work, what we're finding out is that when we go into an office and we do that 2-hour, 3-hour training, the number of questions that come out of it slow us down from being able to do the next one, because everybody's like, wait a second, hold on. Oh, you got me this, but now I need to know this. And then how do you do this? And so the amount of time that we thought it would take that hygienist and that dentist going in to help people, it's 3 times the time. And we're like, okay, so we got to rethink the system, because every other week just going to an office, great. But then if they have follow-up, where does the follow-up happen when they're already booked for the next, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 4 months to do that? So we're learning. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. We don't need to be perfect. We need to continue to learn, continue to evolve, and figure it out.
Yeah. And then you throw, like, I'm a complete nerd with this stuff. Then you throw something like AI into the mix. I'm curious what you're using it for, but like things like this, or a piece of technology, or a material change, can really kind of throw like a wrench into the cogs, right? So right. What are you using AI for, and where do you seeing it fit and more into the organization?
Let's go to the change piece first, and then let's go into AI.
Yeah,
so here's the thing.
Awesome.
You have to believe that change is part of what you're going to do, and embrace it. And I think what we've got our teams to believe, whether they like it or not, they know that we're going to change. Like, software is going to come, we're going to put in products, and then we're going to listen to their feedback, and then we're going to figure it out. And I'll be completely honest, we had switched from one software to another, and our team leads are like, this is not better. And I'm like, well, it's better because of this. And they're like, but it's not better because of X, Y, and Z. And our team leads just came out and they're like, we're going to do it because you said we have to. And I said, give it 3 months. And after 3 months, they came back and they're like, this is not working. We're like, all right. And we went back to the original software that we had, which had then actually caught up to some of the pieces that were missing. Because again, software continues to get better. But, taking that feedback and saying, hey, and I own that. I said, look, that was on me. I made the final decision on that. It didn't work. You all had a little bit of stress. But here, what I'm going to say is that because you told me that we could do different, we're going to bring it back to the way you want it. So, getting your staff to believe that change is going to happen and embrace it, and not love it because it's stressful. I don't think anybody loves it, but embrace the fact that we can be better and we can continue to learn, and that we're not going to be perfect, and we're going to try things, and those things may not work as long as they don't affect the patient's health, but we're going to try things that are not going to work.
I think if you're not utilizing and you're not diving into the innovations, things can get stagnant, right? So you gotta keep evolving.
And that's what I think too, right? Because I mean, some of this technology excites people. So let's go into AI. Like, what's happening in AI out there? Well, there's a lot. And what does AI really mean? I mean, it can mean anything. It can write an email for you. It can, I took this family to Europe, and I had 2 days in Paris, and I asked ChatGPT, I got a 4 and a 6-year-old, what do I do? And hey, to be completely honest, I had no idea that there was a Disneyland in Paris until ChatGPT told me that. And I took the kids, right? So it was like, it's amazing what these things can do.
Yeah, but I was just in Paris with my kids, and we went to Disneyland.
Did you? Yeah, ChatGPT told me what to do for 2 days because the rest of the trip was planned. So, but AI in dentistry. So we are at this point we've put in the kind of AI X-ray stuff in dentistry. So the the help in diagnosing X-rays.
Circling
what's going
things,
on.
Right? Yeah,
right. Yeah, circling things, showing you where things are, and it's an interesting piece because, again, you get docs that are looking at this stuff saying, look, I'm the dentist. I can diagnose X-rays, right? What is this machine telling me what to do? And it's not telling you. It's just helping you, because what I believe is that we do miss things. We're human. We're not perfect, and we're going to miss something. Yeah. And, there's times where I'll go into an office and there'll be one dentist and 4 hygienists, and they've all got a recall at the same time. And that's not normal for us, but like, you know what I mean? We don't usually have one dentist and 4 hygienists working, but there's times somebody's on holiday, somebody's away. And how could you possibly do that perfect every single time? There's going to be stuff that you're going to have to. So this is just a tool to help you look at it. But the most important thing that we've actually found with a lot of this stuff is just helping patients see what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we put x-rays up, and we have screens in every operatory, and we use our intraoral camera and we use our x-rays, and we're like, so see this, and they're like, and and we think that we explain it really well because we're dentists and we're intelligent, and of course we can explain. It's an X-ray. The patients come in once a. I mean, their X-rays are not taken at every time they come in for a cleaning, right? Every year or two, they're getting X-rays. They don't know how to read an X-ray,
Yeah.
but when there's a red mark and a yellow mark and a green mark, and it's like, hey, green's good, yellow's concerning, red's bad. People already know that. That you don't have to teach anybody that. It allows them to see what's going on,
Yeah.
and as much as we believe as individuals that our patients trust us, and they do, they trust the AI more. That has already been proven. There's
Yeah.
no question that when you put the AI up there and you say, hey, there's 6 fillings in your mouth, the patient's like, oh, my last dentist said that there wasn't any, whatever it is. If the AI says there's 6 fillings in their mouth, they just believe it. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm the dentist. Like, I went to school. They believe the AI.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think it's to do more treatment. I mean, I know a lot of people, the AI companies will say, hey, if you do this, you're going to see increase in treatment. No, no, no. It's increase in education to help the
Yeah.
patient figure
Yeah.
out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And then at least they can understand it better.
Yeah.
And are we using it? We only put something in October. So we're like, 2, 3 months into it. And of course, November and December are your busiest months of the year. And technology works sometimes and it doesn't work other times. And so we're in the infancy of using it. I mean, I looked into it for about 18 months before we decided to actually get into it. So,
Mm-hmm.
the US is ahead of us. And so fortunately, when you go down to some of these conferences, you can see what's going on. But I do think it's going to be the standard of care. I do
Yeah.
believe that. I do believe that it's going to be part of it. And I think that, again, using it to help, right?
Yeah.
Using it to aid in your diagnosis, but using it to really help educate the patient so that they can see what's going on. So because it builds trust in your treatment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it actually builds trust in what you're coming up with.
It's a communication tool, right? Like that's what these screens and the operatories are for. I think it's all about that patient journey, and if you can have something that simplifies that conversation to, obviously we're entrenched in this world, and we're communicating, like we understand what we're seeing. But you're right. Like some of these folks don't come to the dentist for like 5 years apart. So if you have something that is clear and concise to communicate, I think it's like a complete no-brainer. What tool are you using? Can I pry? Can I ask which AI?
Well, I don't mind. I just think that there's so many good ones out there. So I think, you've got Overjet,
Okay.
you've got Pearl, you've got
Yeah.
Vidya, you've got Denti AI. I mean, does it matter which one you're using? I don't know which one's best. And so
Yeah.
it's not that I care what people know. Cause I mean, you can read the articles. There's articles out there. We've put some stuff out there, but I think we're still all trying to figure out what the best way to do. And so I wouldn't want somebody following. I want you to look at, kind of those 3 or 4 and figure out what's going to work best for you. I know a couple of the DSOs has picked one. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest, it's not the one that we picked at this point in time. Um, but they're all evolving so quickly and they're
Yes.
all moving. And so to me, you got to spend time and look at what's going to work for you and what looks the best. We picked one that had a good DSO, like kind of enterprise background. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I don't think it's the best one for a lot of people, because we picked it because of the way that it aggregated the data
Mm-hmm.
versus the one that you could maybe see the best for the patient, because that allowed me some insight to then go in and help our offices. Because what do we want as an organization for TREC? We want consistency. I want you to be able to go to any of my 17 not mine, our 17 offices, and get the same treatment plan, or approximately the same treatment plan across. And so we're using it to try to really make sure that collaboration and consistency and calibration is part of what we're doing as an organization. And that's where some of this background information really helps us, is like, okay, you know, are we diagnosing at the same sort of speed? Are we diagnosing kind of the same sort of things? If we believe that a tooth with 50% plus fill and then decay after that should have a crown, is that what our dentists are doing or treatment planning? And it's not about getting more crowns, it's about the consistency of treatment. And so that's where, we're still learning it. So, I mean, but
Mm.
that's where we're hoping to use it more along the way. Individually at the clinic level, it's helping the hygienist, helping the dentist, helping the communication. But on the background side, to me, that level of consistency is going to be really important because we want to make sure we're giving the patients the best treatment that they can. And if you have a new grad and somebody that's got 20 years experience, there's a difference. The AI is going to help us bridge that gap, help us take that new grad or somebody that's 2, 3 years out of school and get them that level of diagnosis. Because I think there's two things that we look at, right? Diagnosis and completion. Are we diagnosing well? And then are the patients actually getting the ideal treatment done? Right? Those are two important things for, you know, organizations to make things work. And again, we don't actually look at those metrics necessarily, but
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to make sure is that we're diagnosing well and then having people trust us that this is the best thing for them.
Yeah, I think like consistency, like nailed it. And I can see that why that would be so important across a brand.
Yeah.
It's your brand, it's your the quality that you're putting out there. I love it. It's awesome. What other tools are you guys doing? Same day dentistry, is that a thing? Like, what other tools are like
Yeah, I
become
mean,
sort of standard or practice for you?
same in dentistry. I mean, if you have an opening, you see the patient, try to get him in the chair. Do we have, crown, like single crowns, like a CEREC machine? Three of our offices do, but it's not a focus for us. I'm not saying that it isn't. I mean, our standard of care is a scan on every patient, like an intraoral iTero or Prime Scan 2, or we believe that that's part of the patient record. And so that's now a standard. So that level of technology we've had for now 5 years. I think we're on our third generation for some of these iTero machines and, CEREC or Prime Scans, second, third generation as well. For us, that's a big part of it and kind of the AI that's come in, online booking. I mean, I think that that's also part of what we've looked at. And we have, is it a big thing? No, but it's just something that makes sense. And I think that here's the thing, right? Like what we're and we don't really buy practices, so this is not a hey come join Trek kind of piece. But what the challenge that we're seeing, because we prefer to build ours, but the challenge that we're seeing out there is I don't know how a single dentist running a single practice can possibly stay ahead of all the information that's coming out there. They can do great quality dentistry. They can keep relationships for a long period of time. They can do really well. Like that's not the problem. It's that the world is moving so quickly.
Hmm.
Who's looking at this stuff, right? Like when I brought AI to some of our offices, like some of my docs are like, I didn't even know this was possible,
Yeah.
and it's in our office, right? And how would they know that it's possible if you haven't been to a big conference where they're talking about this stuff? Like your local rep is not talking to you about AI and
No,
these X-rays, and that's
they're
a bit of a
not.
problem, I think. And
Yeah.
working with Henry Schein and Patterson and Sinclair and all these, like, just how do you get that stuff in there?
Yeah.
But
And like a lot of them are just focused on, no knock to them, but focused on those supplies, like the disposable stuff, the gloves that, you know what I mean?
and that's
That's
their
what they
business,
make.
right?
That's
That's what
their
they do. That's
business.
what
Yeah.
they pay off of, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you get that to happen? And I think that that's where, whether it's the consolidation that continues to happen or groups working together, but it's just, even if you know that AI is out there and you want it, like who's got time to evaluate four different softwares and to pick the best one for you? I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
do because that's part of my job and role with my team. But the average dentist sitting there that has a family that has to do that, it's getting more challenging because of the speed that things are coming out at it. I don't know that I have a solution for the people that are individually running their practices. It's working with people, having for us, partners are a huge part of our success because we can lean on each other for challenges, even for HR challenges, for IPC stuff because that's changing and radiology is changing, and it's like
Mhm.
you need to lean on people. So for me, that's where the partnership has been, just so important.
Yeah. I feel for the individual practice owners. I really do. They're, it's, I feel a lot of them are very isolated and very stressed with, the velocity that the world, the world that's coming at us right now.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. How does specialty work within the group? Like the prostos, the orthodontics. Is the specialties shared amongst the group, or how does that collaboration help?
Yeah, no, great question. We don't, so we're not a specialty
Mm,
organization. We don't. So here's the thing, and this is more of a personal piece, but then it flows through the organization. I don't really love specialists coming into the office
mm,
and doing work. It's not their environment. Specialists are anybody. Like when I go to another office to help them with implants, I feel like I have two left hands because it's like, where's my and it's harder to do, and you can do it. I'm not saying that you can't. But for us, when we refer out of the office, we refer to the orthodontist, and we don't tell our docs who to use. We give them, hey, here's the guy I like because of
mm,
these reasons. But we're across Calgary, and so we send to oral surgeons in the south and oral surgeons in the north, and even our north clinics. I think they have 3 or 4 different oral surgeons that they send to, and our south clinics have half a dozen different. And so, no specialty. I mean, we do have, there are 2 pediatric dental clinics that are part of the organization. Here's the thing: on average, we actually don't even refer to them. As crazy as that completely sounds, they're so busy and they're not close to some of our offices. We want our patients to have the best experience, and we do believe that they give the best experience. And so we do refer to them, but it's not like 100% of our patients that have to go to a pedo office go to our pedo office. That's not, if it's not best for the patient, it's not best for the patient. And
yeah.
so let's focus on that. And we use pediatric dentists across the city because if it's a 30 or 40-minute drive, doesn't make sense. Now, if they can get them in sooner, but there's great specialists, excuse me, in my opinion, across the city.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we don't have any right now that work for us. I'll be honest. I'm not saying that we never will, but we don't have any that work for us. We don't have people that come into offices, even just like having somebody that come in to take out your eights, like, a super GP.
Yeah.
We don't even do that. Our preference is if we're not comfortable doing the procedure generally inside the office, then let's send it to a specialist to do the work. And the patient's going to have the best experience. They're going to come back and they're going to have, hey, that person did a really good job and everything worked out well because that's why they're a specialist. And so respecting that factor. Now, yeah, do we do some implants inside our office? For sure. Do we do some endo inside our office? For sure. Do we do some Invisalign into our office? Yes. But that's not we general dentistry is what we do really well with some level of the specialty, but that's how we run it. So,
Are you
we're
bringing?
saying,
Is there anybody coming in to do a chat with a group of GPs? Like, is that a thing?
say that again. Sorry. In terms of,
Is there a specialist coming in to do, say, a chat with a group? Do you guys have like a internal study club?
so we do have our own internal study club. Yes. Do we bring specialists into it? Yes. But it's interesting because then almost can become political because we don't
Yeah.
always use those specialists, right? Because we don't
Right.
have
Right.
our
Right.
own, so when generally when we have our study clubs, we're actually bringing in people from outside the city to speak to our study clubs. So like
Gotcha.
we had an endo study, we did an endo lecture recently, and Gary Glassman came in from Toronto, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So there's no but we don't refer to Gary, obviously. Like we refer to endodontists in the city,
Yeah.
So we do bring them together. But yeah, I mean, so we have conversations and we have our own study club, and we did an implant continuum last year. We bought. I don't know if you've heard of Neki Jamal. If you haven't had
Yeah.
him on
Yeah.
your
He's
podcast, I mean, that guy's
yeah.
like
He's
rock
a
star, right?
great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we brought him in for our docs, and we did a weekend with him and some CE courses. I've
Fun.
known him for 10 plus years because I did a trip to Peru with
Oh,
him.
awesome. Yeah.
10 years ago. I met my wife and Neki the same day because they were both on the same trip. And then
Oh, there
one
you
ended
go.
up being a good friend and one ended up being my significant other. And so, a lot of good stuff comes from, these socially responsible trips, as we've talked about. But
Yeah.
yeah, we tend to bring in people to help educate, but not necessarily specialists to talk about what they're doing. I mean, we
Hmm.
don't have a problem with it, but
Yeah.
trying to be mindful of not, picking one over another.
Jan, are you planning on building outside of Calgary? Are you guys talking to anybody in Edmonton or in my neck of the woods here in
Short
Vancouver?
answer is no.
No.
Short
Yeah.
answer is no. My big thing right now, I mean, again, we're doing well. Things are going well. We want to continue to make our systems better, and we like being close to our teams. Again, we just had that big retreat. Everybody is within 30 minutes of where we are, and so people can get there. I mean, we do have something in Cochrane, which is just outside the city, so
Hmm.
they always have to drive a little further, and they make sure they let us know that. But ultimately, that's it is what it is. So, are we going to continue to grow? Yes. Do we prefer to build clinics? Yes. Have we bought? Yes, but it's not, generally our MO for growth. But we're open to anything. But right now, man, when I talked to you last year, or maybe a year now, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I think I actually had 18 clinics, and now I have 17 clinics. And
Oh.
that's success for us. Right. So to me, there isn't a number. I'm not trying to get to 20 to make myself feel better about it. We're happy. Things are
Yep.
going
Oh
really
yeah.
well. If I talk to
Yep.
you next year and we have 17, we'll have been successful. Right. So
Yeah.
to me, it's just about creating, if we can do this really well and we grow with people, and that's the thing that we've found, is that associates join us and they want to practice, and then we're like, okay, well, let's try to see if we can figure something out for you to be a part of. But yeah, I mean, I like being in Calgary. I mean, when I travel, I want to go do it for fun or for lecturing, but I don't know that I want anything in Edmonton. I mean, as much as I don't know
As-
if anybody likes, my wife's family's from Edmonton, so we go there enough, but I don't know anybody really that
oh,
wants
it's
to be in Edmonton,
the
right? So
Battle of Alberta. You're hearing it right here.
yeah, I got to put it out there a little bit, right? So
Of course, it's your job, right?
yeah,
Jan, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. You're such a busy guy. Thanks again for being on. What's top of mind for you for this year? Anything else that's circulating that mind of yours that you want to share?
no, I mean, not really, right? I mean, just creating systems that make our team healthier. I mean, that's the big focus, and the social responsibility stuff. And so we're trying to figure out, again, how to do it better, how to get people to go for a walk on lunch. And do you mandate the walk on lunch, or do you just say it would be nice for you to walk on lunch? I mean, it's kind of one of those funny things, and I'm not going to mandate a walk on lunch, but you could promote it quite heavily. You know what I mean? And so to me, those are the things that we got to do to keep our teams healthy. Dentistry is stressful. There's so much going on in the day, and I think that we've got to figure out how to make our teams have a long, healthy life in dentistry. Because you look at a hygienist, an assistant, a dentist, we're hunched over patients 6, 7, 8 hours a day. So let's figure that piece out, and let's enjoy what we do. Let's have fun. Let's complain a little bit less. I mean, honestly, if I could ask, I mean, I'm on these Facebook groups all the time, and I can't even
Yeah.
put my 2 cents in, because
No.
the only thing that's happening is somebody's complaining about somebody else doing something else.
Ah,
It's like, we're
yeah.
lucky, man. We're in dentistry. We're doing really well. Like, let's be a little more grateful. Let's complain a little bit less, because we live in the best country in the world. I still
We
believe
do.
that,
Yeah.
opposed to everybody's, like, hey, what's going on in government? We live in the best country in the world.
We
Let's
do.
enjoy what we have and these friendships, right? Like, look at dentistry. I mean, I didn't know you unless we were in the same world, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to be at PDC. I'm sure you're probably going to be at PDC,
Yeah.
and we'll get to hang out and have a drink together, right? I mean,
Let's
it's like,
grab a pint. Yeah.
let's let's enjoy the relationships that we're making along the way, because I think those are really important, and I don't think that there needs to be competition. We chalk it up to
Yes.
competition, like, I mean, the dental corp rep here in Calgary, Dave Roberts, he's been a friend of mine since since he was part of Oral B and PG. Every quarter we go for lunch. I mean, I'm not selling, he's not. Like, this is just we're in the industry, and we're having fun, and we're doing things, right? And, like,
Yeah.
getting to know you and talking to the dentist down the street and going out for lunch with them and seeing how they're doing. It's like, we don't need to create artificial competition. There's a lot of patients out there. There's
Yeah.
a lot of success that we can have. Let's work together to be better if we can.
I could not agree more. I think competition in business is old school. I think we all have something to contribute. Whether you're a dental, practicing dentist chairside, or, my little piece here, making video about telling stories about all the great things that you guys are up to. Jan, let's grab that pint at PDC. It's just around the corner here. I'd love to
Yeah,
chat
we've
with you.
actually, for the first time ever, we've got a booth at PDC.
Ah, so I can track you down easy.
Yeah, and people are like, "Why would you have a booth at PDC?" And I'm like, "Well, to give away money. So we're going to be one of the socially responsible kind of events that they have.
Yeah.
We don't want people. Again, we're not looking to get practices. We're not looking to come into Vancouver or anywhere else. So we've got it's called the Spin to Give booth, and we're going to be giving away money to local charities out of our own foundation, just to get people involved. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want to do. I want to, you know, quick little push to some of the other DSOs. I think, having a $250,000 party versus maybe giving $250,000 to a charity might be the way that we can make this world a slightly better place.
Oh,
so
there's the competition.
right. So
That's positive competition. Love it.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, and that's it, because my why is motivating people to live well and give back.
Yeah.
So if I can prove that I'm giving back, maybe I can push other people to just do a little bit more.
I
And
love it.
ultimately, that's what I would like to do. So we'll be at BDC. We'll be up on the registration actually level, and come by, spin our wheel. We'll have some prizes, but our wheel actually, just when you spin it, it forces us to donate money. So based on what you spin will be our donation to a local charity. So you don't actually necessarily win anything, but you win money that we can give away. So that's our cool little stick, and you'll see it at PDC. It's been working really well in Calgary. We've gone across the city and taken it to different events, and people love it. There's going to be a cool selfie booth, so come say hi. We'll take a picture together.
Love it, man. Love it. Yep. I'll see you soon.
Okay, awesome. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks again for your time, sir. And we will chat at PDC.
Awesome.